peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club and another episode of Monday Night Frights. Joining me tonight, as always, is our co-leader at arms, Mr. Danny Brown, or AKA Mr. Fred Krueger.
Mr. Frederick Krueger.
Mr. Frederick Krueger,
Frederick Krueger,
the professor of dreams.
My lovely hat, which I'm now going to take off because it's just too goofy looking.
You sort of look a wee bit like Wurzel Gummidge with that hat on. It's not quite the fedora.
It's not quite the Freddy Krueger. It's more of a Wurzel Gummidge and the wee beard, you know.
Oh, of course. But loving the jumper.
Of course.
Love it.
A custom made by the one and only Eileen O'Shea, also known as my granny.
Also known as
Granny Grumbles.
Granny Grumbles, yes.
Granny Grumbles.
That's how we all know her, as Granny Grumbles.
Of course, yeah.
Any other crack then? What's the crack with you?
Not a big lot. I have bought my first car.
Your car?
I've got my very first little Kiar, so I've got that. That should be coming towards the end of the week. But I did want to give a shout out to a purchase I made last Saturday from local comic book store, the Comic Book Guys. Their second comic venture, The Revenants, Zombies on a Train. It's really good. It's really funny. Fantastic artwork. There's amazing sort of pop culture references in there, comic book character references, that sort of thing. And some of the lines are just cracker. And you know, if you know the guys, if you've been in the shop and had a chat with Aaron or Austin, because of their Belfast accent, a lot of the lines you kind of hear it back in that, and it just adds to it, and it's just great. But you know, it's great. Obviously, you've got local artists working on it. It's their dad actually wrote it. And it's just it's a quality comic, and definitely worth picking up this spooky season.
I like the cover. That's like a Ghostbusters?
That's one of the variant covers that is done by Aaron, who runs the shop. One of the fellows that runs the shop. That's his cover. Take on the Ghostbusters logo. But I think there's maybe six different covers available, but this one I had to go for this one because I do love the Ghostbusters. But then if you got it on the weekend of release, there was an exclusive print by local tattoo artist Chris Hill, and I mean, we know how much I love his artwork because it covers about half of my body.
It does.
So yeah, definitely I highly recommend go pick up The Revenant if you happen to be in Belfast anytime soon.
Yeah, big shout out to Comic Book Guys. They're awesome.
Yes,
and
they are great.
If anyone who follows Danny on Instagram, you may have seen parts of his body covered in Chris Hill's artwork.
Covered in my pop culture artwork by the one and only Chris Hill tattoos.
And the mashups that you love to do are fucking awesome, man. But yeah, shout out to Chris Hill and shout out to Comic Book Guys. But tonight's episode is all about the original Nightmare on Elm Street, directed and written by Wes Craven, of course. Released in 1984, my favourite horror film of all time.
One of my favourites of all time.
One of my favourite films of all time, actually. So we're going to be ganching about that today.
Of course. Well, we have to. I mean,
we do.
What? It's going to be the 1 year anniversary of our first Fright Club screening on Halloween night. And of course, the first film we showed was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Which is why we have all these props.
Yeah. 35th anniversary. What do you mean props? You always wear that glove.
I mean, it's just for scratching, you know. It's good getting through the beard,
good guy.
down the back.
I know. We'll show off the props in a wee minute, but there's a couple of things we need to announce before we get into the movie at all. We've got a couple of announcements tonight, 3 in fact. So the first one is this is going to be the final episode of season 1 of Monday Night Frights. But fear not, because season 2 will be coming in about 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to take a couple of weeks break just to recharge the batteries and record a few more episodes. To be honest, we need a wee bit of a break from this, but thanks for watching. 13 complete episodes. This will be the 13th one and the finale of season 1. Season 2 will be launching on YouTube. We're moving away from Instagram now, and we're going to launch season 2 on YouTube, and hopefully season 3 and 4 and 5 and how many we do in the future.
However long we decide to go on.
13 maybe. That seems like a good number. I don't know. We'll see.
One. We'll see how we get on.
Fingers crossed we can get to 13 seasons if we can. Happy fucking days. But yeah, so we'll be launching that soon, and we'll tell you all the information about it on our social medias and stuff, so don't be worrying about that there. 1 year anniversary of the Fright Club NI's inception, I suppose. We did a 35th anniversary screening of Nightmare on Elm Street this time last year. It was actually on Halloween night, wasn't it?
Was Halloween night, yeah.
A couple of days from the year anniversary, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also to help celebrate Halloween week, which we're in. Happy Spookies, everyone. And to help celebrate our 1 year anniversary and to help celebrate Halloween, we've actually got not one, but 2 bonus episodes for you this week. Yes, 2 bonus episodes.
Oh,
That's mad. I know, 2. We're working really hard here for you.
Yeah.
So the first one is actually a Q&A with the writer and producer of the film Host, which is an amazing horror film exclusive to Shudder, which dropped earlier this year. It was filmed during the quarantine. It's been known as the Zoom horror film, and it's one of the most talked about films of the year. And it's such a great film. If you haven't seen it, please check it out on Shudder now. We talked to Jed Shepherd and also one of the leading ladies, Emma Louise Webb. We've interviewed them as part of a partnership that we've done with the great team at Banterflix as part of their Dark Hedges International Film Festival. So that episode is actually on their social medias right now. You can go and check out their social medias, or you can wait until Wednesday when it will be going up on their digital player on their website at dhiff.com. It will also be available on our Instagram from Wednesday as well, so you can check it out on either platform, wherever suits you. So we're not finished yet. We have one more announcement. It's a big one. Well, we think it's a big one. We hope you agree that it's a big one for us.
It's massive.
This Friday, which will be the night before Halloween, will also be dropping an extra special bonus episode, an extra special Friday Night Frights bonus episode, the first ever Friday episode we've dropped. Friday, I know, and it's with an amazing special guest. We're not going to reveal who the guest is just yet. No. However, if you hang around to the end of this episode, we will be dropping some clues right at the end of the episode, just to tease you. We'll be teasing you. We will be. Brilliant episode, amazing guest. We had such a great time interviewing this person.
It was surreal. It was surreal.
A brilliant, just all I will say, screen icon. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
But we will drop some hints.
Big props to our boy Gav for sorting it.
Yeah, well,
big props.
Yeah, fucking brilliant. Yeah,
again, great crack.
We're professionals. We're professionals now. This is our 13th episode. We're professionals at this. Come on.
Exactly.
But anyway, brilliant interview. That'll be dropping on this Friday. So keep an eye on our Instagram and on our Twitter as well, because we'll maybe drop a few hints during the week. We'll see. If you're good, we'll drop some hints.
I'm so pumped for Halloween week. We have some great content coming. Content.
We do for it being our first proper Halloween. I know we were born this time last year, and we did that amazing first event, which was the first screening that we did.
So well.
It went down really well, yeah.
But then we had to adapt and overcome, and obviously that's where Monday Night Frights and 5-minute Frights and everything that came out of Gav's brain came from, and we've made the most of the situation. Now Fright Club isn't necessarily an entirely different beast, but it's now when COVID land is no more, we can go back to our screenings and those other ambitions. But for now, we have this.
And
it's wonderful.
This is how this was born. This whole show was born out of the pandemic and the lockdown. So, it was kind of good for us in a way. But we'd definitely be getting back to screenings once we can. Once the Braid Film Theatre can open again, we'll be doing screenings there, and hopefully further afield. Hopefully now that we have a little bit of a fan base, hopefully we can do other things as well, and we've got other big plans. Hang on, I just got a wee itch there. Just there. Sorry. Sorry. It was brilliant crack. We had loads of props set up in the wee spare room beforehand where people could get pictures. We had you're wearing one of the jumpers. We had 2 jumpers, didn't we?
We had the 2 jumpers.
Where did the other jumper go? Did we give it away?
I think my sister might have taken it.
Oh, okay.
Because she was there as well with her boyfriend. She might have snagged it at the end of the night.
I was like, I'm getting that jumper, and then it wasn't there, and I was like, where'd the jumper go?
I'm pretty sure. I think Gran still got the pattern. So if you want one, man.
To be fair, I got something better than jumper.
You did. One of 2, produced by Granny Grumble's sister. My Auntie Gish over in Wales produced these fantastic Freddy Krueger knitted dolls.
One glove and all.
I know I love the wee shiny bits. There's wee shiny bits of wool through it and everything.
Love it.
But that was one of 2. The other one went to our competition winner the other night. Right. We had a raffle.
We had a raffle that was a donation to a charity, a children's charity, and we made a little bit of money on that, and we gave away one of these, and we also gave away some exclusive artwork by an artist called Lauren Rington, who's fantastic. If you can check her out on Twitter and Instagram, she's amazing. But yeah, we had loads of props. We had the gloves. People could take pictures with the gloves.
We had hats.
We had the Elm Street sign. You made a big lamppost with the.
I made a lamppost so we could stick the Elm Street sign onto it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take this off. I can't do it.
Yeah? I'm used to this now, as you said, just wearing it all the time. Where's the phone?
You're like a very scary Michael Jackson.
Shimon.
Yes, the phone. Hang on.
The phone?
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Now, I am aware that the shade of this is slightly different in the film, so don't give me shit. I made it in like 3 or 4 days.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Got the receiver. Yep. So that was an old phone that I purchased, and we painted it. I think it was green. I want to say it was like a dark green. We painted it, we weathered it, and then we made this out of clay.
Amazing.
And we painted that, and we put a couple of different layers on it of paint. I don't know if you can see that. Is it? Mm-hmm. It's pretty good for a couple of days' work.
I made for some fantastic photos that night.
And it's a great little prop, and I'm proud of it. So
we had the house number as well.
Yeah, we sure did. So beside the signpost that you had built, we had the Fright Club sign. We had a couple of pumpkins and lights and all, and we had this as well, 1428, which is obviously Elm Street, the house that the Thompsons live in. We had that nailed up beside the signpost, hanging just as another prop, as another photo opportunity, and that came out really well too. Obviously, we talked about trying to build a door, didn't we?
We did. We did. Try to build a door,
we were being a bit.
We're a bit ambitious.
Ambitious.
For everything that we did, it came out great. The people who were there, very engaged audience, getting their selfies and all, and face painting. People were getting their faces painted, and we had the green and red bags with all the popcorn in.
That's right. Yeah. I've still got some of the stickers. From that night,
one she stuck onto the bags.
Made up the Fright Club stickers.
That was, that was class actually.
So I'll be on our Instagram anyway if you want to see any of those pictures. What an event! It was a brilliant night. Really, really chuffed with how it came out. So
good crowd.
Can't wait to start doing more screenings, man.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
Too.
We've rambled on for long enough. Let's actually talk about the movie.
Yes.
Talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, the original and best nightmare for me, anyway. When did you first see this movie?
I think I seen Elm Street I must have been about second or third year. So it was maybe only like 13, 14.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I had a friend who was like Freddy obsessed, would dress up as him every Halloween and had the box set and stuff. And I think I was round at his one time when we watched it. And that was it then. Like I was absolutely hooked by this charismatic character. He's the bad guy, but he's got such charisma and character, and it only develops as the series goes on. And it's so well played by Robert Englund, and that was it then. Freddy Krueger is my favorite horror character ever.
Oh, definitely, man.
What about yourself? What was your first Freddy experience?
Well, I saw it very young. This came out in 84. I was born in 83. I probably seen it when I was about 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it was part 4 was the first one that I saw. I think it had just been released on video, and me and my sister rented it because my sister's a little bit older than me, and I used to stay at her house because she didn't live with us. And we used to go to the video store on a Friday night, I think Friday or Saturday night, and we'd always rent horror movies because I couldn't watch them otherwise.
Yeah.
But you go into a video store, you see horror movies. That was always the thing. You were like, oh, let's go straight to the horror movie section.
Yeah.
But yeah, Elm Street, I want to say it was Dream Master was the first one, starring Lisa Wilcox, obviously, as Alice. And I just remember that scene at the end when she's fighting Freddy in the church, and she's kind of taking all the powers of her dead friends, and that's how she defeats Freddy. That just sticks in my mind for some reason. And then obviously
that's
after
the one
that,
with the Freddy fetus, isn't it?
No, that's the 5th one.
That's the fifth one.
That's Dream Child.
Okay.
Yes, that's probably not. Yeah, it's not the best. I wouldn't say it's the worst. For me, I think it's that and Freddy's Dead, which is the next one after that, are the two worst.
Yeah.
But so Freddy 4, which was Dream Master, for me was the first one that I can remember seeing, and then I went back and we rented all the older ones. I may have seen some of the ones before that, but it was just that one stuck out in my head first. And I love the first one, as I said at the start of this video, one of my favorite horror films of all time, and is definitely in, probably my top 10 films of all time.
Yeah.
I just love it. I love the lore behind it. I love the fact that it is quite contained. Yes, there's obviously some real out there sequences, but compared to some of the later Nightmare movies, it is very contained, and it has certain rules that exist within the movie. And Fred Krueger, as he was known there, wasn't even called Freddy back then.
No.
He had rules as well. So I just love it. And I do love the second and third one as well, and the fourth one, but the first one's always been my favorite.
I think the third one, Dream Warriors, I think is very, very close to the first one for me in terms of how much I enjoy them, but the first one will always stand like above the rest, It's so good. I watched it just before we came on the call, just to kind of freshen myself on it, but it's just one of those things, like, no matter how many times you watch it, you just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, his just yes, how well the characters are played and stuff, but then also the kind of tackiness of it. There's still, I find that really appealing, like the real kind of, the pots and the stairs and the dummy through the window. But we'll get to that. But
we'll get to that. Like those, the dummy through the window isn't even my least favorite part of the movie. Like, I love that part.
It's so funny.
It's some of the parts before that that's a bit sort of the Home Alone section. I think you'll find is the kind of part that's a bit sort of like, of all the strange things that happen in that film, that's the part where I always go, here we go, here's the Home Alone section.
Home Alone part.
I know, but amazing film. Obviously Robert Englund, like, phenomenal. He was cast as Fred Krueger, and you just couldn't see anyone else in that role.
No.
Obviously there's been a remake, and meh. And legend has it that Robert Englund wasn't originally supposed to be cast as Fred Krueger, and everything just fell into place, and then he got the job, and he was recast in the second film. They didn't think that they needed him in the second movie. It was just going to be a stuntman, and then you can't have Fred Krueger without Robert Englund. He brought so much personality to that character, even though he was only on screen for something like 8 minutes in the whole film or something like that, and he had very few lines in the first film. Just his screen presence, it really brought that character to life, and he was more than just a scary monster. He was a physical being. He was a presence, and the way I love hearing Robert Englund talk about what he brought to that role and how he sort of attacked the performance of it, because I was lucky enough to meet him a few years ago in Belfast.
Yep, so I think I was same event I met him at. Yeah,
you were there, weren't you? Just like one of the best days ever. What a fucking what an icon! Man. You just think Robert Englund is the biggest, one of the biggest names in horror, and he had a big massive queue the whole day. Yep. So we queued up, and we only maybe waited half an hour. It wasn't a big deal, but we queued up and we got to him, and as I got closer to him, I seen that he's being really talkative to the fans here. He's being really talkative and interactive, and sometimes celebrities that you meet, you're kind of like, oh, are they going to be chatty or are they not going to be chatty? Because sometimes they're just there for the money and they don't really care much about the fans. Yeah. He was being very chatty with fans, and I was trying to think, right, what questions can I ask him here? And obviously Janine had the phone out ready to take a picture, and I think she recorded a short video as well. So I was getting the thing signed and all, and I asked him just a generic question about, does he still talk to the cast? Is he still friends with Heather Langenkamp and that? And just the way he talked about even Heather Langenkamp, the way he talks about her and the way he talks about the other cast, he loves it. He loves that character and he loves the franchise so much. And I know we all make jokes about how the franchise, after 4 movies or so, it starts to go downhill a little bit and it becomes very corny and cheesy and sort of comedic. It makes fun of Freddy in a humorous way rather than making him scary.
Yeah.
that was just the way it was at the time. But even though we had those, like, he still loves that character and he still loves those movies as much as anyone.
Yeah, he probably had so much fun doing them, and you can tell, like, even the stuff not necessarily to do with the movies, but everything he did around the movies, like the music videos and all the TV spots and stuff, and the Freddy's Nightmares TV series.
God.
He's enjoying himself
Yeah.
being this character that he obviously has so much time and cherishes and has kind of made his own. And as you say, like, even and meeting him, how very clear it is that he loves and respects the character. You know, the picture I got signed was him in the tuxedo.
Oh, brilliant! Yes.
And he was like, "Oh, do you want me to sign it with the quote?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, please." So he was like, as he was signing it, he did the voice. He was like, "Where's the bourbon, bitch?"
Hello.
And I fucking see going from his like nice, softly spoken normal voice to then doing the Freddy voice. I was like,
and he does that. He does that Freddy face where he was like, the photographs were great because he was wearing the glove and he put it under my neck. He probably did it with you as well. He did it with a lot of people. You put the glove under your neck, and that's fucking brilliant, man. He did that. He actually did a quote with me as well. Whenever I was getting, I was chatting away to him, and Janine was videoing it, and we were about to pose for a picture just at the table, really quick, and he just sort of posed really quickly, but Janine was still in video mode, and he was standing there for a few seconds, and then he just turned and goes, "Take the fucking photo, bitch!" But just as he did that, she had came out of video mode, so she didn't even fucking get it on video. And I remember afterwards going, "Oh, did you get that?" And she was like, "Oh no, I didn't." I was, "Oh, that's a real shame. That would have been awesome." But it was just such a special moment. Like, what a fucking amazing person Robert Englund is. Big shout out to Robert Englund. Screen icon, one of my heroes. I'm sure everyone watching this loves him. What a legend! What an absolute fucking legend he is. You know, he always talks about how there was very little to work with at the start. You know, Wes was just like, this is the guy, he's burnt face, he's going to wear a dirty hat because of, you know, we'll get into in a second, how his image was influenced. But he said that he wanted him to make him look a bit like an old gunslinger. And how he sort of drops the shoulder, you know, and he walks like that, and he drops the shoulder, and he's got the glove kind of hanging as if he's got a gun there, and he's going to shoot you. But instead of shooting you, he fucking slices you with the blades. I just love that, like, mindset that he put so much work into creating this character, which, you know, we're all still talking about today, and we will be in God spares 50 years.
It really speaks to the testament of the movie how much people are always going to give off when a remake is made, but the fact that, you know, a lot of remakes, I think after they come out, people do end up kind of growing to love them. But I don't think the Nightmare on Elm Street remake has kind of just been dead and buried. You know, people still will continually talk about the Robert Englund ones, the Wes Craven ones, and the other one is just kind of like, just cover it with dirt. You know, it's
nobody really mentions it when they're talking about Elm Street franchise. It's kind of the black sheep, the remake. Nobody really wanted it, and it's one of those things where, you know, there's loads of remakes to horror films, and initially the first reaction is always like, "Oh, make something new." Generally, though, I mean, remakes have always been around for decades and decades and decades, long before this was ever made. And some remakes are fucking brilliant. You know, they're better than the original. I think with this one though, and we'll talk about it really briefly because it's probably going to be the only time we ever talk about it on one of these Monday Night Frights episodes. I feel a bit bad for Jackie because he was a great actor. He had a lot of good roles up to that point, and I think had he just come into this role and as the first Freddy Krueger, he would have been pretty good. But he was a lot shorter, and that makeup didn't look right. Even though I'd read afterwards that the makeup was more like how Wes Craven initially wanted the makeup to look in the first one. He wanted it to look like a genuine burn. You know, like it didn't look like makeup. It looked like softer and thinner rather than the thicker makeup that you see in the original. And I just didn't like the way it was made. It looked like a music video, which, funny enough, the director was a director of music videos, but it just looked like one of those things you'd see like an emo band on MTV or something. You know, the colours and the shading and the way it all, you know, do you know what I mean with that? It's hard to explain, but that's what it looked like.
No, I felt the story tried to take itself too seriously. compared to the original. Yes, the first film isn't necessarily trying to be funny, but because of the character and charisma and stuff of Freddy, those moments, and again, maybe not intentionally, but because of some of the like prop usage and the stunts and stuff, it's a wee bit sort of silly and campy. Whereas the remake took itself a bit too seriously, wasn't campy enough, and it just you know, you kind of got the impression that whilst it's never explicitly said that Freddy Krueger was, you know, is he just a kid killer? Is he a pedo? With Robert Englund's adaptation, you kind of forget it. But with this one, you're kind of like, oh, this is dirty.
I know what you mean. You didn't like Freddy in the remake version, whereas, you know, you liked, even though he's a killer in the first film, obviously, and he hasn't got that funny side to him just yet until maybe the third movie he starts getting that, and then beyond that. You still like him, you know, in the first one, whereas you just don't like Freddy in the remake.
Because he comes off with just some real, like, one-liners, real zingers. You're just like, ha, ah.
But it's got that real charm of a early 80s movie as well. You said, like, the stunts and stuff. And, you know, that amazing scene where the stuntman's running down the street, and it's clearly not Robert Englund. It's a very short stuntman with big elongated arms. But the way he's like a wee goblin, like it doesn't look great, but that's part of the charm to it. And as you say, like, the remake was too serious. It was very, very dark and serious. And then whenever they implied that there was, you know, child rape or molesting or whatever you want to call it, you know, that kind of takes you out of it and goes, nah, not my Freddy.
Not like this. No.
No. But yeah, so we're not going to mention the remake now.
Over it. We've done it.
We've addressed it. Done.
And we're moving on.
We've addressed it. We will never mention it again on an episode of Monday Night Frights.
It's dead and buried.
Yes, it's dead and buried. Let's talk more about Robert Englund.
Yes, because we love him.
We love him. So obviously, like, this film is filled with amazing scenes. That opening scene where you have Amanda West as Tina, and, you know, her little thin nightie.
Big shout out to Amanda for doing our opening video, the introductory video for our first screening. That was great.
Yep, she did it. She was very generous to do that introduction for our first screening, and we love Amanda here, and she's amazing as Tina. And she sometimes gets forgotten about in the franchise because obviously she dies, and it was that whole thing where she's the first of the group that you see, and she's in the boiler room, and she wakens up, and it's just a fucking great opening scene.
It's that
she sees the things cutting her 90, and you're just like, if you're watching this for the first time, you're thinking immediately you're hooked. You're like, what? That was a nightmare, but she's got, you know, this. Has she done this to herself? What the fuck's going on?
Because the mum comes in then and is like, either cut your nails or stop having nightmares.
I know.
The bit that really gets me in the opening nightmare is the sheep, the lamb, and then you kind of hear the sound of like lambs bleating in the background, and then that kind of gradually turns into like baby child screams, and that's just it's haunting. Like, it's really freaky. And then combined with his claws, you know, down the pipes. Oof.
It's great because you don't see a lot of Freddy Krueger in the whole movie. In fact, you don't really see him that much. Obviously, near the end of the film, you see his face and you see his full body and that. But in most of these opening nightmare type scenes, you just see him, you know, lurking in the shadows or popping his head out, or, you know, he's chasing, or that's a great shot where he does that thing across the pipes and you see his eyes, and brilliant. It's
all about the implication.
It is. It really is. And Craven did a fucking amazing job with that opening nightmare. And then obviously you find out that this is what's going on here. The other kids are talking about, you know, having nightmares, and you're just hooked. I just love it. Like, you're just hooked straight away. It's such a great premise. And the premise initially was formed because Craven had read somewhere in India. I could be wrong with countries, but it was somewhere in a country either around India or near India, where there were these people that were having horrible nightmares, claiming that they were going to be killed in their sleep. And obviously people were like, well, you're mental, whatever, just go back to sleep. All you do is you need some sleep. That's all you need. And then they did die. So he had read this, and he had obviously been a college professor as well. I think he had some interest in insomnia and sleep deprivation and that kind of idea. So he kind of started to put the ideas together.
Like a mass hysteria.
Like a mass hysteria. Exactly, that was it. And he had this idea of shared dreams and a monster hunting your dream, but not just hunting your dream, hunting the dreams of your friends. And he wanted, obviously, to make it more appealing to younger audiences. So they needed to be high school students. And then with Fred Krueger, he knew somebody called Fred who was a bully, isn't that right? But he bullied him as a kid. Yeah. His high school bully, I think, was called Fred. And then he also, for that actual image, was that he had seen a homeless man outside his door one evening when he was a child. And Craven has, in interviews, had said that he grew up in quite a strict Christian house, but he was peeking out his window one evening and he saw just a homeless man just standing at him, and he was wearing a fedora, and he could just see the sort of silhouette and the fedora, and he was just standing looking at him, and he closed his blind again, and then he went and peeked out, and he was still standing looking at him. So that image terrified him apparently throughout his childhood. So whenever he was writing the script and coming up with this horrible character that hunted the kids' nightmares, he put it all together. The bully called Fred, the image of this homeless man with the fedora, he put it together. In a library, he was reading a book about things that made you nauseous, and partly those shades of red and green are the two colours that whenever you put them together, it fucks up your mind and makes you feel sick. Right. And so he experimented with that jumper of having the green and red.
It was like a Christmas, just like a ratty Christmas jumper that Alfred had lying about. That's what I took from, or at least that was his way of luring children in, was a nice Christmassy character.
Nah, it is obviously Christmas colours, but apparently red and green, those particular shades, the quite dark, dirty shades, put them together in that fashion, the stripy fashion. That's very disorientating.
I apologise to anybody that's being disorientated by me
now. I'm getting dizzy just looking at you right now. I feel sick. Where's the bucket? But yeah, so he read it in a book somewhere, or he'd read it in somewhere, I don't know. But that was his idea, and that was kind of how the whole film came together.
I love just talking about things coming together. It's the opening, even before the nightmare, that kind of opening where you kind of have the smaller ratio picture of Fred building his glove, and he's got the doll, and again, it's all just his hands. You don't actually see Fred at any point. You just see his grubby hand, like getting the knives and getting the metal plates, and he's constructing his glove and bringing together his weapon. And yeah, I love that wee sequence at the start. That so just kind of teases you in of being like, right, well, this is a very sinister thing.
Yeah, because they could have just had a normal title sequence, just a generics, whatever. But doing that lures you in. It doesn't really give anything away if you haven't seen the movie, but it gives you enough just to be like, what is this? This is fucking amazing already. I want to see what happens next. And then it cuts into the nightmare scene, and then it cuts to their school.
Yep.
Then you get a little bit of explanation whenever they go to school together. And of course, Tina is she's kind of billed as the main actress. She's like the main girl in it at the start for the first 15 or 20 minutes or whatever it is, until she gets hacked to death. And Nancy's kind of in the background. Yeah. Tina's the blonde, beautiful one who's,
we get that nice switch of being,
we do, yes.
We typically expect the blonde, attractive one to be the last girl, but then we get obviously the old switcheroo.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's been done quite a bit since then, but I'm trying to think, this seems like one of the first movies that would have done something like that.
Yeah. As far as I can think.
In 1984, I don't think I'm sure there was a few before. If there is, like, let us know in the comments, but I'm sure there is. But just the way they seamlessly switched from Tina to Nancy, and Nancy not being the sort of traditional, attractive. I mean, she's a very attractive girl, but not the traditional blonde beauty that you see in these kind of movies.
But we do get the obvious then later on, we do get that one kind of horror trope. If you start banging, you're gonna die.
Well, that's it. Yep. I mean, you're not allowed to have sex in a horror film. That's the rules.
That's the rules.
Those were the rules that were brought in like the likes of Halloween and Friday the 13th, and you know, Wes Craven even spoofs that later on in Scream when he has Randy do that. You know, the rules of horror is you can't have sex, or you can't do drugs or alcohol, and he's taking the piss out of horror movies in general, something that he laid the groundwork for in Nightmare on Elm Street. But shout out to Charles Bernstein as well, who did all the music, the original music, and like
phenomenal.
That opening sequence you were saying of when he's building the glove, and just the soundscapes and the creepy
just
organ,
the iconic do 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 do, just real like kind of it's very sort of soft, and it kind of leads you into that kind of like dreamy scape before it builds up to crescendos and you know
just the whole atmospheric sound to it as well, not even the score, but just the atmospheric sound to each scene is fantastic, especially the boiler room scenes where you have that there sort of echoey, sort of like
industrially sort of
factory. It sounds like kind of steel hitting steel and
loads of steam sounds.
It's fucking amazing, and I love all that shit. Like I love the music in the Elm Street. It's one of that their theme is one of my favorite themes ever. Like it's right up there with Halloween theme and right up there with all the great themes.
I love when it's incorporated into Nightmare on My Street. The
way
it's incorporated into that, phenomenal.
I know.
Great song.
Class. Will Smith.
Oh yeah.
Jazzy Jeff. We actually played that before the screening as well.
We had a fantastic playlist.
We did.
You should post the playlist.
I'm going to do that, man. I've still got it on my Spotify, and it's just a playlist of like all kind of spoopy songs, and we've got some of the songs and some of the score from this film as well. Yep. But we've got some other spoopy stuff like the Monster Mash and all, and we actually were playing that before the film started, our screening, which was cool. It was fucking awesome.
Definitely post the playlist because that was a fantastic playlist for the event. Yep. But we definitely
I'll post a link to it up on our Twitter at the Fright Club NI.
Good shout.
And obviously the Tina's death is still to this day one of the most iconic death scenes in any horror film.
And so I love the transition for that is obviously, so they've been speaking to school about these nightmares, and Tina invites them over for a sleepover because she's scared to be there by herself because her mum's away in Vegas with her new lover. And they kind of, so Tina and Rod. Tina and Rod go off, and they're doing the one thing you shouldn't do. No bumming. Yep. So they go off, and you can hear them very loudly making love, and but then to go from them being so loud and noisy, doing that, to then when she is dying, and Rod is freaking out, and the screaming and all coming from the room again. I love that kind of transit of juxtaposing, you know, the act of sex within the act of violence, and it's just I've during that there I was kind of, it was especially today when I was watching, I was like, here, that's really good, that's cool, that kind of
that Mr. Craven's not bad, you know, he's not bad.
He's well good. Hey,
he's all right at his job, you know.
Good.
He did The Hills of Eyes, which was his big breakout kind of film, and then
we've watched that recently, haven't we?
We've watched that recently. We have. But this was obviously his biggest film.
Yeah,
this was the film that put him on the map, and he's not bad at his job.
He's
Rest in peace, Wes Craven. Fucking legend. What an amazing writer and director. Anyone who's seen the movie knows kind of how that was done as well. You know, it was the room that was built up and it was turned upside down, but everything was glued to the walls, and Tina's fucking being dragged around, and it's fucking brilliant. Amanda Wyss is amazing in it, and she talks about it, you know, you can get interviews online of her talking about how it was initially done, and then obviously they had to do it quite a few times because, you know, they had to get the shots correct, and it's just such an ingenious way of filming the scene of her being dragged around, even though she's not actually being dragged around, it's the room that's turned. And they had to nail everything down. What a clever thing to do. And I think they do it again later on in the movie with Johnny Depp's character Glenn.
Yeah.
Whenever he dies, he goes into the bed and the blood, they have to turn it upside down.
You can see the way the blood is like moving around.
You can,
It
yeah.
kind of swishes from side to side on the roof.
You do. You sort of, if you've got an eagle eye, obviously everyone knows now, but if you look at it, you can see the way the blood's moving, that it's something's not right. You know, something's up with gravity there. That's because it's upside down. Another brilliant death scene, by the way, as iconic as Tina's.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because, I mean, the whole franchise is littered with amazing death scenes. Like, every film has some sort of just really memorable death scene, but the first one has two. I think probably 1 and 2 of the best in the whole franchise. Johnny Depp's one's just mind blown.
It is iconic. You know, it's one of those ones that you see, especially in a lot of like fan art posters and stuff. Just that stream of blood coming out the bed, and yeah, it's the one that sort of sticks with you. I think out of all of them, you know, long after watching it.
Up to this point, so they know they're dealing with Fred Krueger. They know what's happened. They know he's some sort of monster in their nightmares. And then you find out more about, you know, the backstory about Fred being a child murderer, and the parents of Elm Street have got a bit of history with him. Let's say
together,
they banded together years ago, and they burnt him to death, and now he's come back to hunt the dreams of their children.
Yep.
I always thought it was weird about how you never really find out about the children that he murdered.
No, it's just sort of implied, obviously at the start with the doll, and then when we get it explained to us by Nancy's mum.
Yeah, but obviously he was arrested, and you know, legal notes went missing and things weren't signed, and he got let out.
Yep,
that was it, wasn't it? He got let out, and then that's why they became vigilantes and went after him, and hounded him and killed him.
Yep,
and burnt him
alive, basically. In the boiler room. Yeah.
Burnt him alive, but you never really find out much about the kids that he had murdered, or the parents of the kids.
There's not much of an explanation. I would say the wee girls that appear with the skipping rope, which for me is the scariest thing in the film. Those wee girls with the skipping rope singing the one through Freddy's Coming for You. That's the thing that terrifies me the most. Anything involving kids in horror films, I am immediately like, nope.
So do you think that they are? Do you think they're ghosts?
I think they could potentially be the ghosts of Freddy's victims. Yeah.
Yeah. That's quite interesting.
Kind of like a foreboding warning. They've come to kind of warn the others, like, here, Freddy's coming for you. But no one listens to them because they're just like, hey, that's a bit creepy and weird.
I know.
You know, but as you say, as the films kind of progress, we get more context to who Freddy is, but we never get anything else for the victims of Fred Krueger. Yeah, why are Nancy's parents so invested? Obviously, her dad's a cop, so he's obviously invested because... What?
There's an interesting little fact here. I don't know if you know this, and I'm sure loads of people know this, but there's a deleted scene, which I saw on YouTube a year or two ago, or maybe it was a wee bit longer than that, where it's just before or maybe just after Nancy's mother reveals the glove. The glove from their boiler, you know, that they've hidden in the wee sack. And she's telling the story, and that's when she tells Nancy what happened. Fred Krueger is dead. He can't be real because we killed him. Yep. But it was revealed in that scene that they had another child who was dead. So I can't remember the context of the actual scene or the dialogue that she says, but I think the whole implication was that this child was murdered. So then that's why
they're so invested.
Yes, because Nancy had a sibling that had died when he was a very young child.
Did you ever find out why it was cut? Or?
I didn't really read much into it. I suppose maybe they just felt like it wasn't needed.
It was maybe too dark. Maybe a bit too. Again, at that time, yes, the film is quite gory and stuff, but it's not, compared to horror films nowadays, it's not actually that dark. You know, obviously killing kids is dark, but the kind of storylines and stuff that we know of horror today go far deeper and psychological than 80s horror, you know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure why they cut it. Maybe it was just they just needed to shave a lot off the film. They thought that wasn't too important. In the grand scheme of things, they didn't need to explain everything, and they don't explain a lot in this movie. They don't explain how Freddy can come back. You know, why has he come back. You find out later on in the franchise,
Yeah.
you know, the dream demons and all that sort of stuff. But in this one, it's just, you know,
He's just dead.
Yeah, he's just a murderer who was killed, who has now come back to hunt, you know, the children's nightmares.
It's just a revenge piece.
Exactly. So Tina's dead, Rod's dead, Glenn dies in one of the greatest, coolest fashions ever. Oh, I will say, Glenn, what was the crack with the wee crop top?
Man,
that
was the style at the time.
That was the style back in the day.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Here, next week, I've got the fucking earphones that he's wearing. Next week. Not next week,
wear crop tops.
We're taking a break for a few weeks.
Start of season 2, we will have Fright Club crop tops.
I'll wear a wee crop top.
That will say Fright Club crop top.
Yeah. That's a merchandising idea there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We've got to go on that for sure.
We do.
Would you buy one of our Fright Club crop tops?
Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments. And then obviously that kind of sets off the chain of events that happens towards the end of the film. We get that awesome scene where Nancy's in the bedroom and Freddy does the tongue thing. And that's just before Glenn gets it. But even before this,
she's trying to warn him, and then
we were talking about great scenes, not just death scenes, but the scene in the school earlier, away at the start after Tina dies, where she's being dragged around in the body bag. I mean, that still haunts me to this day. And you see the centipede coming out of her mouth and all, and all the snakes and shit around her feet.
It's just, again, there's all those kind of just real kind of quick scares. They're not jump scares, but they're just there to kind of like what the fuck moments.
There's a great scene just when during Tina's nightmare where she's run away and she's run back into his house. She turns around and she hears Freddy speaking and she can't see him, and then he's like hiding behind like a really thin tree, isn't he? And then he just jumps out, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's like a trellis thing, and he's
it's fucking brilliant. So we're at Glenn now and he's dead.
Yeah.
And we get the phone scene.
He's been turned into a blood fountain.
He has been, and the blood's dripping and all on the ceiling.
And his mum walks. It's the mum's reaction when she walks in the room. She just kind of goes, "Oh!" That's kind of it. And then looks, and you're like, "Nah, if you went into your child's room and all you saw was blood, you would be having some sort of breakdown."
And then Nancy's fucking had enough. She's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna go and get this cunt. I'm gonna bring him back." And she's talking to her dad, John Saxon, rest in peace. And she's like, "I'll bring him out, Daddy, and you get him." As if he's going to just put the handcuffs on and be like, "Nah, Fred, come on."
Yeah.
One day.
Like, can you see I'm trying to deal with it? Like, this death next door.
I know your boyfriend's exactly. And they have that fight, in the house, obviously.
It's
and then
when she first wakes up, when she thought she's pulled him out, and she's kind of looking about, and she's like, "Oh."
Hello.
Oh, and then he just like pops up like,
hello. He's just been hiding.
I know. He's just like.
He's been waiting there for 10 minutes, being like, "Fucking hurry up, Nancy, will you wake up?" Trying not to fall asleep himself. And she starts, moving. He's like, "Oh, thank fuck."
Here we go. Here's my moment.
And then we get that great Home Alone scene where she's
already the door handle.
She's already rigged all this beforehand because she read this awesome book in the library where it's like stop burglars or something.
In your school library was it improvised home security systems.
Yeah. she gets the gunpowder in the
light bulb.
The bulb.
Yep.
She's got the big sledgehammer coming down, and like this guy has come back from the dead. He has haunted your nightmares, not just yours, but all your friends. He's 100% supernatural. You're not going to really do much to him with a fucking sledgehammer. Yeah, he gets hurt for a couple of seconds, or he hits the tripwire and the thing blows up, and it shocks him for a couple of seconds, and then he gets burned. You get that cool burn scene where he goes down the stairs, and the stuntman apparently was lit up for like a good 3 or 4 minutes, which is unheard of. But
it's the bit where he's chasing her back up the stairs, and you can see the foot like squelching down into the pots.
Oh, brilliant!
And you can see like the rim of the pot.
That's
very
good,
clearly.
That's great. I love that shit.
To see it.
And that was, I think that was like muesli or something. They had made like a weird, it was like some weird muesli with kind of like wet sand and all. And they'd made this special. I can't remember what it was, but that scene was actually directed by Bob Shea, who's the head man at New Line. And apparently Wes Craven was just like, this fucker Bob Shaye's doing my head in, because he was obviously on set for a lot of it, because he was the producer and he was putting up all the money. And he had this idea, and Wes was like, "Aye, go ahead, you can direct it." So he directed that scene. But I think that is quite a memorable scene too.
Yeah, as you said, it's the Home Alone scene, you know, and it's just
so... What about that scene when he's on top of the mother, and he's like, "Fuck you, bitch!"
Yep.
And she's like this, and then she obviously falls into the bed. That's actually a really cool effect.
It's very compared to, because obviously, as we said the whole way through the film, the effects are a bit cheesy and campy, but then you get to this, and it's just kind of like, where did this come from?
Yeah, I think that's a class effect, and it's overlooked, and people laugh at it and stuff. And I think it's cool where she's just lying and she goes in to the bed, and it's that scene. It's over the top, isn't it? The camera's looking down. It's like 100% practical, and the lights are all shining up, and it's cool. And then we get the end scene, obviously, which is, you know, I'm not scared of you. If I don't have fear, you can't exist. Yep. Which, you know, it's a good way to end the film, I suppose.
It's an iconic kind of way of, I think, of doing that when you've got to deal with those kind of like dream-esque fantasy characters. You know, it's done with like Labyrinth and stuff. You have power over me.
It's also good because I spoke about the rules at the start of this video, and they break those rules quite a bit after this film. But in this film, there is kind of that contained rules where, you know, there is certain guidelines that Fred, even though he is supernatural, he still has to exist within them. And Nancy finds that out. She has that revealed to her, and she just says, "You can't exist. If I have no fear of you, I'm not scared of you. You're nothing." And then just at that point where you see a close up of him, and whatever angle it is, he's sort of like that, and he's all dark, and it's such a cool fucking scene.
It gets used a lot, especially with the like box art and stuff. You get kind of like iconic tilted, you know. I don't think, is he wearing the hat at that point?
No, he's bald at that point.
He's bald at that point, but it's just that kind of the way the brow like overshadows the rest of his face. It's sort of an iconic Freddy look.
It is,
but yeah, as you say, it's the relinquishing of fear ultimately is the demise of the creature, and in this case, Fred Krueger.
And that gets used quite a bit in other horror films after this. You know, that whole thing where people have to believe it for it to be able to exist. For the evil to exist, you have to have some sort of faith and belief. But they do it really well here. He goes to claw her, and she's like, "Nah." And then he disappears, and then you get that awesome shot where she suddenly is transported to the front door, and it's daytime, and it does have a dreamy look around it. You know, it's a lot brighter. It's very bright. It's very saturated, and it's, you know, it's got just that dreamy sort of look to it. She goes out, and then her mother's alive, and she comes out, and she's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And now her mother, who was a fucking raging alcoholic the whole way through this movie, and barely smiled, she comes out, and you just know that you go, "Nah, there's something up here. This isn't Ronnie Blakely playing her mother. This is something else entirely. Something bad's going to happen here." And then all the friends pull up in the car, and they go in, and then obviously the hood comes down. It's the green and red, and it turns into the Freddy car. And they all look back, and they can't get out. And they're banging the windows. Fuck. And then you get that.
And the mum's just waving.
I know, she's smiling. None the wiser. She's just like, "Oh, hey, have a good day at school, guys. See you later." And then you get the hand coming out and pulling her through the fucking door. The wee window in the door is about that size. It's about, you know, about a foot by a foot. And she sometimes somehow gets pulled through it.
Mannequin body just like wiggling its way through.
Class. I love it. I don't care what anyone says. It's fucking amazing. I'm glad it's still in the movie. I'm glad they haven't tried to redo it or take it out, because it's such a charming part of the movie and a great way to fucking end it. I don't care what anyone says. And I'm glad they did do it, because apparently Wes was very against having that sort of sting at the end. He just wanted it to end. And Bob Shaye was quite adamant, you know, let's put something at the end where
cliffhanger it will.
Bit of a cliffhanger, bit of a ambiguous ending, you know, it'll leave audiences hanging. And can you just imagine if that wasn't there? Imagine it just sort of faded to black and went to credits. It wouldn't have been the same. And it would you could have still built a franchise around that movie after this, but that scene just gives you that wee.
It gives you that wanting for more. You kind of want to know. Well, Freddy's just turned himself into a fucking car. What else can he do?
Yeah,
you know.
And then obviously the car drives off, and you see your mates, the wee girls, singing the song and dancing, and then it fades away.
And then you get that awesome song.
I know. Brilliant. Yeah, it's definitely not as good as Dokken from Dream Warriors. Brilliant songs in those movies. But yeah.
Can we go watch all the rest of the Nightmare on Elm Street season 2?
We'll definitely be doing every season. We'll be doing an Elm Street, 100%. So you've got that to look forward to in season 2 of Monday Night Frights. We're definitely going to do Freddy's Revenge, starring Mark Patton.
I'll get my jumper on again.
Yeah, and it's unfairly called the gay one.
The gay one, yeah, that's
which is.
I put up on Twitter earlier that I was watching the first one and got a comment saying, "Watch the gay one."
Brilliant. It kind of is, but it's a great fucking movie. I love it, and it just adds to the lore of Freddy, even though it breaks the rules a little bit. It's definitely a great movie, and we'll be talking about that in season 2 of Monday Night Frights. I think that's all we've got time for tonight.
Freddy is my horror hero.
He is.
I don't, I have all of them. He's the one that I kind of go to, and it was even the experience of Freddy was made even better when I got to meet Robert Englund.
Definitely.
And how genuinely nice a person he was.
I know. What a legend.
Amazing. Absolutely.
I still can't believe I've met him. I mean, loads of people meet him all the time at cons all over America and Europe and stuff, but I'd love to go back in time and relive that moment again. And obviously get lots of other stuff signed as well, but I would just love to relive that moment and
just chat to him. Yeah, that's it. He was such a genuine character, and as you say, you go to cons sometimes, and it's a bit like, right, what do you want me to sign here? Cool, thanks. That's 15 quid. Bye. But no, it was just like, it was so nice, just nice, a nice experience.
Such a nice lad.
Yeah. For a man who made a living scaring the life out of people.
Fingers crossed. We'll get him on as a guest. What's up with your claw now?
Crossed it.
You what?
It. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Blades crossed.
That was
hard. We get Robert Englund as guest. It'll never happen, but we can hope.
We can live in
flood his Twitter feed with, please go on Monday Night Frights and talk to us. You never know. And
someday,
you never know. And that's a good segue into our final part of this video, because we mentioned at the start of this that we've got a bonus episode coming this Friday with a very, very special guest, a screen icon. We're not going to tell you who it is. We're just going to drop the episode on Friday, and we may release clues during the week. But we do have a couple of clues here. What other clues do we say? Let's just say you'll want to phone home whenever you hear about this guest. You'll want to tell your family about this guest.
Yeah, she's a well good critter. So
she is. She's lovely.
Well good critter.
She was lovely. And she was really funny as well, wasn't she? She was so hilarious.
Funny. You know what? She'll leave you howling.
She'll leave you howling. She was that funny. So that's all we're going to say. Please watch the episode on Wednesday with the panel with Jed and Emma from Host, and please check out the video on Friday with our very special guest that we definitely didn't mention there, that we just give clues to. You'll want to follow us on Instagram at the Fright Club NI, and follow us on Twitter at the Fright Club NI, please, as well. And if you can support us at our website, www.thefrightclubni.com, and click the little support tab and buy us a coffee. We'd really appreciate that. So until Wednesday, and then again on Friday. Take care. Stay safe. All the best, guys.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.